soon. So reading from chapter 61. The genealogy of the family of Krishna. Pawan Prabhu, we're good? Yeah, good to go. Krishna had 16,108 wives, and in each of them he begot 10 sons, all of them equal to their father in the opulences of strength, beauty, wisdom, fame, wealth, and renunciation. Like father, like son. All the 16,108 wives of Krishna were princesses, and when each saw that Krishna was always present in her respective palace and did not leave home, she considered Krishna a henpecked husband who was very much attached to her. Every one of them thought that Krishna was her very obedient husband. But actually, Krishna had no attraction for any of them. Although each thought that she was the only wife of Krishna and was very, very dear to him, Lord Krishna, being Atma Rama, self-sufficient, felt neither attraction nor enmity towards any one of them. He was equal to all the wives and treated them as a perfect husband would, just to please them. For him, there was no need for even a single wife. In fact, since they were women, the wives could not understand the exalted position of Krishna, nor the truths be about him. All the princesses who were wives of Krishna were exquisitely beautiful, and each one of them was attracted by Krishna's eyes, which were just like lotus petals, and his beautiful face, long arms, beautiful ears, pleasing smile, humorous talk, and sweet words. Influenced by these features of Krishna, they all used to dress themselves very attractively, desiring to attract him by their feminine bodily appeal. They exhibited their feminine characteristics by smiling and moving their eyebrows, thus shooting sharp arrows of conjugal love just to awaken Krishna's lusty desires for them. Still, they could not arouse Krishna's mind or his sexual appetite. This means that Krishna never had any sexual relations with any of his many wives, save and except to beget children. The queens of Dwarka were so fortunate that they got Lord Sri Krishna as their husband and personal companion. Although he is not approachable by exalted demigods like Brahma, Lord Krishna and his queens remained together as husband and wife, and Krishna, as an ideal husband, treated them in such a way that every moment there was an increase of transcendental bliss in their smiling exchanges, talking and mixing together. Each and every wife had hundreds and thousands of maidservants. Yet when Krishna entered the palaces of his thousands of wives, each one of them used to receive Krishna personally by seating him in a nice chair, worshipping him with all requisite paraphernalia, personally washing his lotus feet, offering him betel nuts, massaging his legs to relieve them of fatigue, fanning him to make him comfortable, offering all kinds of scented sandalwood pulp, oils and aromatics, putting flower garlands on his neck, dressing his hair, getting him to lie down on the bed, and assisting him in taking his bath. Thus they served Krishna always in every respect, especially when Krishna was eating. They always engaged in the service of the Lord. Each of Krishna's 16,108 queens had 10 sons. The sons of the first 8 queens are listed as follows. By Rukmini, Krishna had the following 10 sons: Pradyumna, Charudeshna, Sudeshna, Charudeha, Sucharu, Charugupta, Bhadracharu, and Charuchandra. Charuchandra, Vicharu, and Charu. None of them were inferior in their qualities to their divine father, Lord Krishna. The names of Satyabhama's 10 sons are as follows: Bhanu, Subhanu, Svarbhanu, Prabhanu, Bhanuman, Chandrabhanu, Brihadbhanu, Atibhanu, Shri Bhanu, and Pratibhanu. The 10 sons of the next queen, Jambavati, were headed by Samba. Their names are as follows: Samba, Sumitra, Purujit, Shatajit, Sahasrajit, Vijay, Chitraketu, Vasuman, Dravida, and Kratu. Lord Krishna was specifically very affectionate to the sons of Jambavati. The 10 sons Lord Krishna had by his wife Satya, the daughter of King Nagnajit, were as follows: Veera, Chandra, Ashvasena, Chitragu, Vegavan, Vrisha, Ama, Shanku, Vasu, and Kunti. Amongst all of them, Kunti was very powerful. Krishna's 10 sons by Kalindi were as follows: Shruta, Kavi, Vrisha, Veera, Subahu, Bhadra, Shanti, Darsha, Purnamasa, and Somaka, the youngest son. The 10 sons Lord Krishna begot in his next wife, Lakshmana, the daughter of the king of Madras province, were named Praghosha, Gatravan, Singha, Bala, Prabala, Urdhaga, Mahashakti, Saha, Oja, and Aparajita. The 10 sons of his next wife, Mitravinda, were as follows: Vrika, Harsha, Anila, Gridra, Vardhana, Unnada, Mahangsa, Pavana, Vani, and Kshuddhi. The 10 sons of his next wife, Bhadra, were named Sangramajit, Brihatsena, Shura, Praharana, Arijit, Jaya, Subhadra, Vama, Ayur, and Satyaka. Besides these 8 chief queens, Krishna had 16,100 other wives, and all of them also had 10 sons each. The eldest son of Rukmini, Pradyumna, was married with Mayavati from his very birth, and afterwards he married Rukmavati, the daughter of his maternal uncle Rukmi. From Rukmavati, Pradyumna had a son named Aniruddha. In this way, Krishna's family, Krishna and his wives, along with their sons and grandsons and even great-grandsons, all combined together to include very nearly 1 billion family members. Rukmi The elder brother of Krishna's first wife, Rukmini, was greatly harassed and insulted in his fight with Krishna, but on the request of Rukmini, his life was spared. Since then, Rukmi held a great grudge against Krishna and was always inimical towards him. Nevertheless, his daughter married Krishna's son, and his granddaughter married Krishna's grandson, Aniruddha. This fact appeared a little astonishing to Maharaj Parikshit when he heard it from Shukadev Goswami, and the king addressed him as follows: I am surprised that Rukmi and Krishna, who were so greatly inimical to one another, could again be united by marital relationships between their descendants. Parikshit Maharaj was curious about the mysteries of this incident, and therefore he inquired from Shukadev Goswami. Because Shukadev Goswami was a perfect yogi, nothing was hidden from his power of insight. A perfect yogi like Shukadev Goswami can see past, present, and future in all details. Therefore, from such yogis or mystics, nothing can be concealed. When Parikshit Maharaj inquired from Shukadev Goswami answered as follows: Pradumna, the eldest son of Krishna, born of Rukmini, was Cupid himself. He was so beautiful and attractive that the daughter of Rukmi, namely Rukmavati, could not select any husband other than Pradumna during her Swayamvara. Therefore, in that selection meeting, she garlanded Pradumna in the presence of all the other princes. When there was a fight among the princes, Pradumna came out victorious, and therefore Rukmi was obliged to offer his beautiful daughter to Pradumna. Although enmity always blazed in Rukmi's heart because of having been insulted by Krishna's kidnapping of his sister, Rukmi could not resist consenting to the marriage ceremony just to please Rukmini when his daughter selected Pradyumna as her husband. And so Pradyumna became the son-in-law as well as the nephew of Rukmi. Besides the 10 sons described above, Rukmini had one beautiful daughter with big eyes, and she was married to Kritavarma's son, whose name was Bali. Although Rukmi was a veritable enemy of Krishna, he had great affection for his sister Rukmini and wanted to please her in all respects. On this account, when Rukmini's grandson Aniruddha was to be married, Rukmi offered his granddaughter Rochana to Aniruddha. Such a marriage between immediate cousins is not very much sanctioned by the Vedic culture. But in order to please Rukmini, Rukmi offered his daughter and granddaughter to the son and grandson of Krishna, respectively. In this way, when the negotiation of the marriage of Aniruddha with Rochana was complete, a big marriage party accompanied Aniruddha and started from Dwaraka. They traveled until they reached Bhojakata, which Rukmi had colonized after his sister had been kidnapped by Krishna. This marriage party was led by the grandfather, namely Lord Krishna, accompanied by Lord Balarama, and it included Krishna's first wife, Rukmini, his son Pradyumna, Jambavati's son Samba, and many other relatives and family members. They reached the town of Bhojakata and the marriage ceremony was peacefully performed. The king of Kalinga was a friend of Rukmi's and gave him the ill advice to play chess with Balarama and thus defeat him in a bet. Among Kshatriya kings, gambling on chess was not uncommon. If someone challenged a Kshatriya to play on the chessboard, the Kshatriya could not refuse the challenge. Sri Balaramji was not a very expert chess player, and this was known to the king of Kalinga. So Rukmi was advised to retaliate against the family members of Krishna by challenging Balaram to play chess. Although not an expert chess player, Sri Balaramji was very enthusiastic in sporting activities. He accepted Rukmi's challenge and sat down to play. Betting was with gold coins, and Balaram first of all challenged with 100 coins, then 1,000 coins, then 10,000 coins. Each time Balaram lost and Rukmi was victorious. Sri Balaram's losing the game was an opportunity for the king of Kalinga to criticize Krishna and Balaram. Thus the king of Kalinga was talking jokingly while purposefully showing his teeth to Balaram. Because Balaram was the loser in the game, he was a little intolerant of the sarcastic joking words and became somewhat agitated. Rukmi again challenged Balaram and made a bet of 100,000 gold coins. But fortunately, this time, Balaram won. Nonetheless, out of cunningness, Rukmi claimed that Balaram was the loser and that he himself had won. Because of this lie, Balaram Ji became most angry with Rukmi. His agitation was so sudden and great that it appeared like a tidal wave in the ocean on a full moon day. Balaram's eyes are naturally reddish, and when he became agitated and angry, his eyes became more reddish. This time, he challenged and made a bet of 100 million coins. Again, Balaram was the winner according to the rules of chess, but Rukmi again cunningly claimed that he had won. Rukmi appealed to the princes present, and he especially mentioned the name of the king of Kalinga. During the dispute, there was a voice from the sky, and it announced that for all honest purposes, Balaram was the actual winner of this game, and he was being abused. And the statement of Rukmi that he had won was absolutely false. In spite of this divine voice, Rukmi insisted that Balaram had lost, and by his persistence, it appeared that he had death upon his head. Falsely puffed up by the ill advice of his friend, he did not give much importance to the oracle, and he began to criticize Balaramji. He said, "My dear Balaramji, you two brothers, cowherd boys only, may be very expert in tending cows, but how can you be expert in playing chess or shooting arrows on the battlefield? These arts are well known only to the princely order." Hearing this kind of pinching talk by Rukmi and hearing the loud laughter of all the other princes present there, Lord Balaram became as agitated as burning cinders. He immediately took his club in his hand and without further talk struck Rukmi on the head. From that one blow, Rukmi fell down immediately and was dead and gone. Thus Rukmi was killed by Balaram on that auspicious occasion of Aniruddha's marriage. These things are not very uncommon in Kshatriya society. The king of Kalinga, afraid that he would be the next one attacked, fled from the scene. Before he could escape even a few steps, however, Balaramji immediately captured him, and because the king had always shown his teeth while criticizing Balaram and Krishna, Balaram broke all the king's teeth with his club. The other princes supporting the king of Kalinga and Rukmi were also captured, and Balaram beat them with his club, breaking their legs and hands. They did not try to retaliate, but thought it wise to run away from the bloody scene. During this strife between Balaram and Rukmi, Lord Krishna did not utter a word, for he knew that if he supported Balaram, Rukmini would be unhappy. And if he said that the killing of Rukmi was unjust, then Balaram would be unhappy. Therefore, Lord Krishna was silent on the death of his brother-in-law Rukmi on the occasion of his grandson's marriage. He did not disturb his affectionate relationship with either Balaram or Rukmini. After this, the bride and bridegroom were ceremoniously seated on the chariot, and they started for Dwaraka, accompanied by the bridegroom's party. The bridegroom's party was always protected by Lord Krishna, the killer of the Madhu demon. Thus they left Rukmi's kingdom Bhojakata and happily started for Dwaraka. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 61st chapter of Krishna, the genealogy of the family of Krishna.
Thank you. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Pandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Shagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lolita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vanchakolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My apologies for being late. The chapter tells of the genealogy of Lord Krishna. Each of the wives of Krishna thought that Krishna was under her control, But in fact, Krishna is always on the transcendental platform and was not overwhelmed even by the charms of 16,108 beautiful wives. Each of the wives had 10 sons. And he treated each wife so that at every moment there was an increase of transcendental bliss in their exchanges. Each wife had hundreds and thousands of maidservants, but each wife, when Krishna would enter the palace, would want to see to Krishna's comforts personally. Then the names of the various sons are mentioned, at least from the principal wives. And then we hear about Pradyumna, who was married with Mayavati. That history we've already heard. Then we come to this history of how the daughter of Rukmini's brother, married Krishna's son, and his granddaughter married Krishna's grandson, Aniruddha. So this is surprising, especially because there was such resentment and enmity. Rukmini had been humiliated after Rukmini's kidnapping by Lord Krishna. So how is it that with such enmity, his family could be united with Krishna's family by marriage? So then we get the history that because Pradyumna was so beautiful, Prabhupada said, and attractive, that Rukmini's daughter, Rukmavati, had to select him at her Swayamvara. And not only that, but he defeated all the opposing princes. So there you go. Rukmini offered the daughter, Rukmavati, to Pradyumna. And Rukmini also had a beautiful daughter whose name was, her name isn't given. Not given. But she was married to Kritavarma's son, Bali. And then the Rukmi, to please Rukmini, you have to sort of navigate through the genealogical details. Rukmi offered his granddaughter, Rochana, that's her, Rochana, to Aniruddha, Pradyumna's son. So these were close marriages between close relatives, not so much sanctioned by the Vedic rules, but to please Rukmini proposed this, and it was accepted. And then there was a big marriage ceremony at the place where Rukmini had retired to, Bojakata. So the marriage was all nicely performed, but then the effects of bad association, the king of Kalinga, which is the modern day Orissa, incited or planted within Rukmini's mind, the idea of challenging Balaram to chess. Bad advisors are worse than no advisors. The Duryodhana had Shukuni, and here Rukmini has Kalinga Raj giving bad advice. So it was known that Balaramji wasn't expert at chess, even though he was enthusiastic in chess or any kind of sporting activities. So this seemed a good opportunity. We'll defeat Balaram in chess at least, and in that way get some satisfaction. So it was going on, and Rukmi was winning, but then Balaram came out winning, not only once, but big time. And then Rukmi was denying it, which can be infuriating. You know, you defeat someone, and he insists, no, I won. No, you were defeated. Look, da-da-da-da-da. No, I won. You feel like, you know, I've been in that position, felt like belting people. You know, how did you win? There's nothing rational about what you're saying. It's all untrue. You should just be beaten. And I'm not a Kshatriya, but even I sometimes feel that way. So these feelings we may have because because I'm influenced by the modes of nature, and also because they're originally there in Lord Balaram, or Krishna, the personality of Godhead. It's also mentioned someplace in 5th canto that in his form as Anantashesh, Balaram is in charge of he releases a fire at the time of devastation that helps annihilate the whole universe. And that sometimes, because people are so demonic and they refuse to surrender to Krishna, Anantashesh becomes so angry he feels like burning up the universe earlier. But he doesn't. But he feels like it. So Balaram he was already angry the first time that Rukmi had made this false claim. Now he claimed it again the second time when the stakes were much higher. And still a voice came from the sky, a divine voice. Balaram has won. This is, by all the rules, he's the fair and true winner. But no, I've won. So Balaram just, boom, just gave him one shot on the head, and that's it. He was gone. And then, since Kalinga Raj had shown his teeth in a provocative and derisive manner, Balaram knocked out all of his teeth. And then the other kings who'd laughed and so on, he bashed them up a little bit, and they all took off. And during this whole thing, Krishna, dead silent, didn't say anything. Because if he supported Lord Balaram's killing of Rukmi, that would create unhappiness for Rukmini. And if he didn't, if he went the other way, it would create awkwardness for Balaram. It would damage the relationship. It would be contrary to the relationship on either side. Either he has to go against Rukmini, his wife, or he has to go against Lord Balaram, his brother. So Krishna just didn't say anything. So that was it. Such is the nature of Kshatriya marriages sometimes. These Kshatriyas are strong people. We hear one name of Arjuna is Bhartarshabha. Bhartarshabha means bull among the Bharatas. So these Kshatriyas are like bulls. You know, you don't hear Brahmins being compared to bulls. And Vaishyas are too small time to be compared to bulls. But the Kshatriyas, they're competitive and passionate and so on. And so in these marriage events, there could be some rumbling, some fights, and that's what we find here. All right. Are there any comments or questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's often mentioned that the Kshatriyas don't
A
follow.
little slower and clearer just because of the acoustics in my hearing.
It is often mentioned in that the Kshatriyas do not follow the four regulative principles. And I'm wondering how we incorporate that into Prabhupada's mission of everyone becoming Krishna conscious. Will everyone become initiated Brahmin in the world?
Well, yeah, how do we hear that the Kshatriyas don't follow the four regulative principles. So how do we incorporate that into our vision of everyone becoming Krishna conscious? First thing is, it's not required that Kshatriyas break the regulative principles. But these things were sometimes found among the Kshatriyas. They would eat meat, but they would never eat cow meat, and they wouldn't just go to the supermarket and buy something. But they were trained to kill. That was their occupation. So sometimes they would kill some animals in the forest. The animals would be offered in sacrifice, and the Kshatriyas could accept the meat prasadam, as it were. Not offered to Krishna, but it would be offered to in some other way. They could accept that. So there are some, what would you say, norms for the Kshatriyas that are not the norms for our Hare Krishna movement. From one point of view, now there are no Kshatriyas, really. Someone claims, well, but I'm a Kshatriya. What kind of Kshatriya you are? Look at these Kshatriyas and see what we are compared to them. But so that's one thing. So there's no rule that they have to, no requirement that they have to break these rules, but they had their own standard, what can we say? But we see that I don't know if I can say much more about that. Only that we shouldn't make excuses and claim to be Kshatriyas and break the vows that we took at initiation. That's one thing about the Kshatriyas. When they took a vow, that was it. Karna took a vow to give charity. He was ready to sacrifice his own son. And he sacrificed his armor and earrings, which had made him invincible practically. But on the principle of having taken a vow, he gave them when asked. Even though he knew why he'd been asked, still, he did it. Maharaj Shibi vowed to protect a pigeon and was ready to give his life to do it. And Bhishma Dev took a vow and was staunch throughout his life. So if you want to pick up an example from the Kshatriyas, when they took a vow, that vow was unbreakable. Even Rukmi, he vowed, if I don't kill Krishna and take back Rukmini, I'll give up my kingdom. And he did. He did. He didn't say, didn't waffle or make excuses. He'd taken a vow, he followed it. So similarly, we've all taken vows, those who are initiated, and we should follow that principle strictly, to follow the vows that we've made. That we should do. And not go looking for, this person didn't, that person didn't, the Kshatriyas didn't, the Aborigines don't, whatever it is. We shouldn't try to make a case for why we don't have to follow what we agreed to. That's dishonorable. So we should honorably follow strictly the vows that we've made before the deity, the spiritual master, the Vaishnavas, the fire. We should follow. Is that okay? Yes.
Hare Krishna. So in the story when Rukmi was claiming that he won, when actually Balaram won, there was this voice in the sky that exposed the truth. In our lives, there's no voice exposing the truth when something like this happens to us. So I was wondering, should we try to tell the truth when this kind of thing happens, or should we just sort of renounce it and think, well, it doesn't matter what people think?
Should we try to tell the truth when these things happen to us?
Yes.
That's up to us. Sometimes insisting, no, I won, there's no profit in it. All right, you won. Like Jiva Goswami, he signed that document. All right, you've defeated, not Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami. All right, you've defeated me. Now, basically get lost. All right, where's your paper? I'll sign it. Why should I fight with a twerp like you? Twerp is American at least, and perhaps English also, for an insignificant, weak person. Twerp. So why should I have to argue against a twerp like you? Just give me your paper, I'll sign it. So sometimes that's better, just not to make an argument. All right. But sometimes we, especially if they're claiming to be Krishna, they're claiming to be, some absurd nonsense rascaldom, then we're ready to challenge them strongly. For our own interest, all right, whatever you want. But if you're attacking Krishna, the spiritual master, the Shastra, the Acharyas, well then, that's another thing.
Yeah. A follow-up on Prabhu's question on making everyone Krishna conscious. On the one hand, we want to do that. We want to spread Krishna consciousness all over. But on the other hand, the Bhagavatam already gives...
On the other hand, what?
The Bhagavatam already gives a prediction of how the world is going to end. So is this movement strong enough to change what Bhagavatam says?
No, it's not that because because we want to bring everyone to Krishna consciousness, that'll change the history of the world so that Kali Yuga won't happen. And no. But Prabhupada said that there'd be some period, just as there's a river going this way, but there's like an eddy going that way. So there'd be some time, we've heard 10,000 years, when Krishna consciousness can spread like anything. So we should try for that. That's an opportunity for us to render some service and benefit people. And then later it'll go to hell. That's not in our hand. Is that okay? Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So earlier in the text, it says that, talking about it said that, I've lost it now because it was on my phone. It said, I found it, every one of them, Krishna's wives, thought that Krishna was her very obedient husband, but actually Krishna had no attraction for any of them. Although each thought that she was the only wife of Krishna and was very, very dear to him, Lord Krishna being Atmaram, self-sufficient, felt neither attraction nor enmity toward any one of them. he was equal to all the wives and treated them as a perfect husband would, just to please them. I was wondering, in relation to this, because it says Krishna has no attraction for them, but doesn't Krishna have attraction for the devotion,
Yes.
the love of the devotee?
Yeah. It wasn't that Krishna was like a mundane sense enjoyer. Mundane sense enjoyer, you know, a woman says a few sweet words, or lifts her eyebrow, or moves this way or that way, and he's like, wow, and his intelligence goes out the window, and he becomes Yoshit Krita Mriga, a dancing dog in the hands of a woman. And we see this sometimes. We've seen, proud men behaving like monkeys or toy animals, just to please, just to amuse a woman. We see that when Mohini Murti cheated the demons of their share of the nectar, she was able to do it because none of the demons, the demons were all attracted to her, and they didn't want to say anything that would make her not like them, make her become that would put her off. They didn't want to say anything that would damage the possible friendship that they had with her. And so they became such fools that they lost the nectar just because she was exercised that power. There was someone sent me an item, there was some big scandal in the stock market in America over the past year, where there was a company that claimed to have some super ultra fantastic medical device, and it was all bluff. But the CEO, the head of the company, was this very charming woman, apparently. And so all big men with big reputations were all somehow bewildered and thinking that, yes, this product is for real, and investing, millions of dollars. So Prabhupada, Kapila Dev says, just see the power of my Maya in the form of woman, who by the mere movement of her eyebrows can bring the great commanders of this world under her control. So, yes. So Krishna wasn't in that category. He wasn't attracted by any other consideration but devotional service.
Follow-up question. So, because Krishna is completely self-sufficient, but does Krishna have any attachment for his devotees?
Yes, Krishna is attached to certainly he's attached to his devotees. In one sense, that means he's attached to himself, because the devotees are only manifestations of himself. They belong to his marginal potency. So they're small separated expansions of Krishna. So they're also not outside of Krishna's own personal existence. So Krishna's, as the devotees are attached to Krishna, sadhava hridaya mayam, sadhava hridayam tvaham. So as the devotees are, Krishna says, I'm in their hearts, so they're in my heart. They don't know anyone but me, I don't know anyone but them. So that loving relationship is there, yes. That's not meant to be denied here. Okay. Yes. Piche. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much. taking the opportunity that is referred in this chapter, Krishna was calm when it came a situation where Rukmini and Balaram were there. On one side Balaram and on the other side Rukmini, in order not to disturb. So he was silent. So one of the qualities of Vaishnava is to be clever. Chatur, can we call this
Is
as
to be
clever?
clever.
So can we count this as cleverness? And as Vaishnavas devotees, how do we deal when otherwise there is a chance that Rukmini can think I am right and Balaram may think that I am right if we are silent.
So Krishna, in this difficult spot where he would get in difficulty siding either with Krishna and Balaram, said nothing. Is that cleverness? So it's not specifically marked out as cleverness. One might better call it judiciousness or prudence. Clever, usually the examples are given like when someone uses wordplay in a very interesting way. There are examples of that in Nectar of Devotion. We don't find this cited as cleverness, but certainly sobriety and judiciousness. He could have said something, but he just was fully in control of himself, sized up the situation, didn't say anything. So judiciousness. And then there was a question about what we should do. Tell me again.
We also, we come in situation where we are between two people of different opinion.
So we have to decide. Sometimes you do come down on one, you say, sorry, but this is wrong and this is right. It's not that we always have to be, well, I don't really want to say anything because, sometimes it's our duty to say, this is wrong or that's right. Or sometimes Prabhupada in those situations would sort of let it come out. He wouldn't pass judgment, but he would let it come out. Or he'd say, so, Shamsundar, what do you think? And so, such and such, what do you think? And then Shamsundar thinks. Sometimes he wouldn't say anything, sometimes he would be very strong. So Prabhupada wasn't limited to only one stereotypical response. He had so many ways that he could respond to any given situation.
And that can be counted as judicious.
That can be counted as?
Judicious.
Well, sometimes it was judicious, sometimes it was clever. There was sometimes Prabhupada would be clever, give a clever answer. Sometimes he would give a judicious answer. Sometimes he would give a strong answer, like just really blast someone or give a strong response. Sometimes he would be gentle, according to his best discretion.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some... Where's the microphone now? Okay.
Maharaj, in one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada was mentioning, no one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. And no one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. Could you please elaborate on this, especially the fearing part?
Excuse me?
Could you elaborate on the fearing part, that pure in fear?
Can you elaborate on fearing?
Fearing?
How one should be
pure. How should one be pure In
Fearing.
pure in fearing. Yeah, don't interrupt me. I had it right. So there's this section, no one can be...
No, Prabhupada was mentioning in one of the purport, where he says, no one can give rapt...
That's here in the text? Elsewhere, okay.
Yeah, it's in the Bhagavatam, first
In
canto.
Bhagavatam, no one can be pure in...
No one can give rapt attention.
No one can give rapt attention.
Who's not pure in mind.
Who's not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind unless he's pure in eating.
Action.
In action. No one can be pure in action unless he's pure in eating, sleeping, fearing and mating. So what is pure in fearing? Fearing is bhaya, is literal for fear, fear is literal for bhaya, but another sense of fear is defending. That's often how Prabhupada, right? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So defending is because of fear. If we don't defend ourselves, they're going to take over. So, but in defense also, it should be properly done. There are rules for defending ourselves, and we don't want to transgress those rules. We want to act purely. Arjuna was acting purely. Not only because he was acting under Krishna's direction, but because he was acting according to religious principles. We recall that at the beginning he offered his obeisances, shooting an arrow at the feet of Dronacharya. So this is fighting, but with honor. With honor. One should be honorable even in the business of defense. Now, today, they bomb villages, they kill civilians right, left, and center. They do so many things. And then, this is what we do for our country. No honor to it, no decency, no religious principles, just unmitigated greed, pressing soldiers pressed into the service of unlimited greed. So that's not very good. And so the action is, the activities are contaminated, the actions are contaminated. Everything's contaminated. And then you get, as Prabhupada points out, so-called kshatriyas, the leaders of nations, hunkered down somewhere 80 feet under the ground in some place in the middle of their own country while they're sending young men to die on the battlefield. That's also shameless. So many things like that. Okay. There was a question from yesterday that I didn't answer, but I don't know whose question was that.
It was behind Maharaj. There's one devotee like said. She was asking questions.
She didn't come today. Well, what to do? Okay, I think last question because our time is.
Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Maharaj, each caste has its own tendency,
Each task has its own
tendency, caste tendency.
Each caste has its own tendency.
Like Brahmana has Kshatriya and Vaishya and Shudra. So I was just thinking, Kshatriya are trained to become a warrior.
Kshatriyas are trained to become warriors. Yeah. Yes.
So and each caste represent a specific guna, like Brahmana represents Sato guna, Kshatriya represent.
They represent gunas, Sattva guna, Brahmana.
Yeah, the Brahmins are supposed to be in Sattva guna, the Kshatriyas are supposed to be in Rajaguna, Vaishyas in mixed Rajas Tamas, and the Shudras in Tamaguna.
To maintain that guna, you have to be in that particular, you have to apply yourself in particular some courses, some actions.
To maintain that guna, you have to blah, 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 blah. What do you have to do? I'm sorry, forgive me. I have a 30% hearing loss. The room makes it probably 80%. And then we want to talk like this and we want to be understood, and it doesn't work. How many times do I have to say this? You have to speak at about 30% of your usual speed. You have to speak clearly, slowly, and loudly. Otherwise, I'm going to have to coming back and say, I'm sorry, could you say that again? I'm sorry, could you say that again? I'm sorry, could you say that again? I'm sorry, but could you say that again? And I lose patience. I'm sorry about that. Maybe I should say something before the question period each evening. But you all come every evening. You all hear me say this like 5 or 7 or 12 times. Tell me, you instruct me, what should I do? What should I do? Maybe I should invest in hearing aids, but they cause problems also. And anyway, I don't have any. So you tell me, what should I do? The only thing I can think of to do is either ask you to repeat it, ask you to go slower, again ask you to repeat it, again ask you to go slower, or as soon as you start that, say, sorry, next question. Move on to the next person and just confine our questions to those who can play by my rules. Those are the only 2 ways I see of doing it. Someone have a third suggestion?
Before the class, can we remind ourselves that we talk slowly?
Yeah, I can. If you remind me at the beginning of the question period, I'll repeat the rules again.
No, we remind ourselves.
Well, no, I'm sitting here, and my one voice will be heard by everyone. Just remind me, and I'll repeat the rules again if you think that'll help. We can try that. But this, yeah, I can't do more than I can do. I'm just not equipped to decode English spoken at high speed in an Indian accent with a 30% hearing loss in a room with terrible acoustics. It's just not possible for me. So all right, well, from tomorrow we can try that. Maybe Prabin or anyone else can remind me, and I'll restate at the beginning that this is what you have to do. And I'll be sort of quicker to cut people off if you don't be offended, but if I can't understand what you're saying, I'm going to move on to the next question. That is the next person. I'll do that. Yes, you have another? Yeah, that's the other thing. You could just write your question down. If you think you may not be understood, if you've run into problems with me before and I've embarrassed you or given you a hard time, or just you want to help me out because you suspect I won't get it, which is quite possible, then this is a very good alternative, good suggestion. Just write your questions down. We can provide, I guess, some paper. From tomorrow, provide a paper and we'll be there tomorrow. We'll have paper and we'll have pens at our disposal. So that's a very good suggestion, because sometimes it's just you're not really being terrible, but I can't get it. So writing is good if your penmanship is okay. Run is the next question. I can't read this. Okay. And again, my apologies. I know that when I'm not very sweet of speech, so when I get a little bit exasperated, I tend to be maybe more cutting than I should be. But we need to do something so that the questions can be, so that I can understand them and respond to them properly. I try to do my best, but sometimes our best just isn't good enough. Okay. And that little talk has used up what was left of our question time. So tomorrow we'll still be open for your question. And apologies to whoever I've offended, and thank you all very much. And who's doing kirtan today? Everyone's afraid now. Okay. You know our rules, right? Only Hare Krishna, only one tune per kirtan, and I don't think we have any other rules. That's it. Nothing else but that?
And nothing else.
And nothing else, just Hare Krishna and nothing else. That's all we need to do. Okay. And we'll give you a microphone.
प्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नाम नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare
Ashtotra Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Sham Kund Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai, Navadip Tham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you again. From tomorrow, we'll be meeting at the flat I'm staying in. Again, the directions are just walk straight down this MVT path, the one that you took to get into this building. Just take it from the front gate all the way to the back wall. There's a small gate there, a small iron gate. Just walk through it, and right on the right, the first